why don't you stay a while and listen? Today, I wanted to tell you a slightly less well-known story about Thor. But this story starts with Odin. And one day, Odin was out riding on his mighty steed, Hrungnir, a 8-legged horse that could ride as well across the skies and the waters as well as the land. And he rode very far and very hard until he entered the realm that we know as Jotunheim, the home of trolls and giants. And he happened to come across a party of giants. Now this party of giants was led by the mighty Hrungnir, who was known as the strongest, mightiest, fiercest of all the giants. And he saw Odin approach. Now he didn't recognize him, but he bid him welcome, and he said, hello there, stranger. Please join us. Now what mighty fine steed you have there, as I saw you approach. Did it travel as well through the skies and the waters as it did across the land? Well, yes it does, mighty Hrungnir. This is the fastest and mightiest steed across all the 9 realms, Odin proclaimed. Now this actually insulted Hrungnir. What? Nay, that can't be true, said Hrungnir. My steed, the glorious Gulfaxi, the golden mane, that is the fastest steed alive. Oh, really, said Odin. Maybe you and I should have a race to determine exactly who is the fastest. Hrungnir agreed. He accepted the challenge, and they both jumped upon their steeds, and then they set off in a mighty speed. They weaved through the trees, through thick woodlands, up over the stony mountains, thundered across the plains, squelched over the marshes, and before they knew, they had entered Osgore. And Hrungnir still hadn't caught up to Odin. Odin laughed and slapped the back of the mighty Hrungnir and said, "Oh, don't look so glum, my dear Hrungnir. Come join us in revelry and drink. It was a mighty fine deed you and I partook in. Please join us. Drink and be merry." Hrungnir accepted. He never said no to some free drink and revelry. But he was still kind of upset. He didn't like losing to this old stranger, which he now realized was Odin. And they sat down in the mead hall, and then they started to drink. Hrungnir had with him his big mighty stone chalice, which he filled to the brim with the mead of the gods, emptied it out in a single gulp, and bellowed for more. And it didn't take long before Hrungnir, who was unaccustomed to the mead the gods made, before he was quite drunk. And he started to sing songs of the giants, and he bragged that he would slay all of the gods, except you, Freya, and you, Sif. You two I will carry home to Jotunheim, and to keep for my own. The gods were less impressed by this. But Freya, she kept her tongue, and she kept filling the giant's stone chalice. But Hrungnir, he kept bragging and saying how he would defeat the gods and kill them and take their women for his own. So eventually they got so sick and tired of this that they sent word to Thor. Now Thor, he was away fighting other giants at the time, as he is prone to do. So he returned, and he saw in the mead hall of the gods a giant sitting there drinking their mead. Thor took up his hammer Mjolnir, approached Hrungnir, raised his hammer to strike a killing blow, when Hrungnir, with fear in his heart, said, "Oh, but mighty Thor, please don't strike me down with such cowardice. Accept my challenge instead. Let us do a duel. By doing this, your renown will increase tenfold across the realms, so please don't strike me down." Thor accepted. They agreed upon a time and a place a few days later. Hrungnir insisted on a few days later because he had to sleep off the mighty intoxication and the subsequent hangover he got. The place they had decided was on a big open field just outside of Jotunheimen, between the two realms. Gods and trolls and giants showed up early to get a good seat to this mighty duel between the powerful Hrungnir and the devastatingly mighty Thor. As they were there waiting, they started to feel a rumbling in the earth, a rhythmic pounding, boom, 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 coming closer and closer. It was the mighty and powerful Hrungnir. He had clad himself in armor of stone, and on his arm he had a big, powerful stone shield, and in his other arm his weapon of choice, a gigantic whetstone, which he twirled above his head. He stood at one end of the field waiting for Thor, and way over on the horizon they could see dark clouds approaching. The skies were boiling. Lightning flickered across the heavens. Thunder rumbled as they came closer and closer. And Thor crashed into the field, spraying up stones and rocks and soil as he landed. The duel started and ended quickly. Hrungnir hurled his whetstone towards Thor's face and hit him square in the forehead. The whetstone shattered into a million pieces. Its pieces spread across all of the 9 realms, which is actually the source of all flint on Earth. At the very same moment, Thor had hurled his mighty weapon, Mjolnir, towards the head of Hrungnir. His stone helmet shattered, and his head caved in, squashed like an overripe berry. Hrungnir died instantly. Thor had won the great duel, but he was injured. A piece of the whetstone has lodged itself into his skull. And when Hrungnir fell, he actually fell on top of Thor, and he was stuck beneath one of his legs. Now, none of the gods were strong enough to lift the leg of Hrungnir clad in stone, such as it was. And none of the trolls or giants could be bothered, because that's Thor. Why would we help him? But Thor's son, who was destined to become even stronger than his father, managed to lift the leg so much that Thor wriggled free. After that, Thor sought the aid of a wise healer woman in order to remove the piece of flint lodged in his skull and his forehead. She was, of course, very, very nervous, because it is the mighty and powerful Thor, after all, the god of thunder, and it isn't every day a god comes to ask you for aid. So she was very, very nervous. So when she was singing her songs of healing and trying to remove the piece, Thor thought he would calm her nerves a little by telling her of all the joyous things he had seen on his way over there. And one of the things he had seen was the woman's husband. He was alive and well and on his way home to her. This made the woman so overjoyed that her magic failed. Her songs of healing faltered. And the stone was stuck there. So for the rest of his days, Thor would have a piece of flint sticking out of his forehead. And it would stay there until his death at Ragnarok. Now, before I leave you, I want to draw your attention to this picture, which is made by my friend Patrick Robinson Art and Animation. And he has taken a picture of the Marvel Thor and done some digital magic, which I know nothing about, and transformed him into a more, well, I won't say historically correct, but more mythologically correct version of Thor. And as you can see, he has a long red beard, pointed hat, colorful clothes. You can see the piece of whetstone stuck in his forehead. And behind him, you can see his cart with the goats. And also, if you see to the left of him, there's a young boy there. His name is Skjalve. Now, how Skjalve came to be in the service of Thor is another story entirely. Now, Patrick, he has done his research on this. And he has based the picture on descriptions from the Edda, from the stories, and also from various figurines and depictions of Thor from the Viking Age. So, if Thor would have walked this earth, this is a very good approximation of how he would look. Thank you for listening.